Operators ready. Okay. All right, let's call to order this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Agenda. Wow. Let's call to order this meeting of the Montara Water and Sanitary District Board of Directors. It is October 15th, 2015 at about 7:36. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Slater-Carter. Present. Director Harvey. Here. Director Boyd.
Here.
Director Wilson.
Here.
Director Huber.
Here.
I have no president's statement. Do we have any oral comments for items not on the agenda?
Let me see, yes. For folks watching this, Thursday, October 22nd at 6:30 at Cypress Meadows. There will be a Connect the Coast workshop where the county and the agency that's been working on Connect the Coast, this will be the third meeting, will be reporting on their findings. They gave a presentation last night at the Mid-Coast Community Council, so you can watch it there. The meeting on the 22nd will not be broadcast. And they are talking about growth projections for the coast, both in terms of Half Moon Bay and the Mid-Coast, in terms of residences, population, and jobs growth. And they're looking at some alternative ways to count the amount of traffic congestion at various intersections. If you have any questions and want my editorial opinion, you can send me an email at catherine@montara.com. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other items for public comment, let's move on to old business. Item 1, review and possible action concerning PAR's investment strategy.
I think we're going to go back 2 meetings to lay out how we ended up where we are right now. At the September 3 meeting, the board chose an investment strategy for our PAR plan of 90% stocks, 10% bonds, with an applied discount rate of 5.5%. Unfortunately, Highmark does not offer a portfolio with that composition, and that is why staff now went with the Highmark's passive managed capital appreciation strategy. That's an 85% stock and 15% bond. And when I say staff, I mean we asked the actuarial to prepare a final evaluation for the capital appreciation strategy. The portfolio is actually generally 75-25% stocks and bonds. So now we have in front of us a actuarial evaluation with that looks at this capital appreciation strategy. At the last meeting, at the October 1 meeting, the board asked that Forrester Financial provide an alternate proposal for the board's consideration. And unfortunately, Forrester Financial has indicated that they're not going to provide an alternative proposal. So our recommendation tonight will be to review the actuarial evaluation and confirm the passively managed capital appreciation strategy, also to change the discount rate to 6.5%. Background for that is that the actuarial as well as investment advisor at PARS is recommending 6.5% discount rate for that financial strategy. If the board agrees with staff recommendation, no further steps are required for the plan implementation. Should the board, however, select a different strategy and or a different discount rate, we would potentially need an additional actuarial analysis that could be received at the November 3 meeting. We also need then to ask for final agreements, revised agreements with PARS, and the packet can then be signed subsequently. So I think that lays out more or less the steps that are planned. That's the staff recommended presentation.
All right, board. Shall we
I'd like to
discuss?
have this actuarial analysis explained in detail by staff.
Okay. Well, I can give it a shot. Of course, I'm not an actuarial. But the benefit summary lists the parameters that went into it, meaning eligibility. You can retire, someone can retire here at 62 after 5 years of service with the district. The retirement benefit is at 2% at 62. It's also limited at the PEPRA limit. That is currently a limit of $117,000 income. It's also only for base salaries, for example. So it's the benefit service for the year starts at July 1 this year. Provides spousal benefits.
But that's not the actuarial.
No, that's not the actuarial. Those are just the benefit summary, and I think we've heard enough about this in the past. What the actuarial did for us is they ran essentially 2 valuations, one for the 5.5 board selected discount rate, and one with the 6.5%, that is the recommended capital for capital appreciation. And I think what the board needs to do is focus a little bit on what are the differences in those discount rates. And so, for example, I think we're showing a projected employee contribution rate of 8.25% with a 6.5 capital appreciation fund, a 10.25% with the 5.5% board selected rate. Total employer cost would be 7.76% contribution with a 6.5%. The employer cost under the 5.5% would be 9.54%. So I think these are the main factors that I would recommend to look at right now. The actuarial has made a presentation before, and there are no differences to the presentation that was made before and this document that we have in front of us. Bill, any comments on it?
Nope. Well, it's just that we had originally selected a rate of 5.5%, that they are strongly, it sounds like both of them are recommending a 6.5%. Initially, I felt that somewhere between 6.5% and 6% was appropriate, so going with their recommendation of 6.5% seems to be reasonable. It also, it just seems to be reasonable.
Greg, I don't know if you're ready, but...
Yeah, I'm ready. I think I got enough copies for everybody. Just want to get this on the record in council. One, if you don't mind passing these down. 2, 3, 4, 5.
Greg Diegas, Montara. Some of these are detailed points, hopefully easily resolved, but I'm concerned that we've gone months now and the paperwork seems a little bit slipshod. The actuaries in their revised analysis have listed 80 basis points of fees. I can find no documentation to support that 80 basis points of asset-based fees. There is a page 97 of the packet which lists a 60 basis point fee. It refers to a group of diversified portfolios, including one named Capital Appreciation, but there's not a specific fund name. There are a variety of fees on pages 99 and 100 for various sub-advised funds, but none of them mentions Capital Appreciation, and I hope and presume those fees are not related to our plan. But I'm concerned that the board enters into this plan without a clear documentation of those 80 basis points. So my suggestion is create an addendum to the agreement which specifies exactly what fees we're agreeing to, which would be the trustee fee, the plan administration fee, all the stuff you know, and just say, this is what we're agreeing to, that's it. And then see what happens. They may come back to you with point number 2 here. Has any director, officer, or council of the district reviewed and approved the prospectus of what the actuary terms, and I quote, Highmark's passively managed capital appreciation portfolio? Now, to cut through the fine print, there is no such fund. I've looked online. I looked at the nationwide funds that Highmark acquired, et cetera. That term doesn't even match the investment strategy selection stuff, but it comes close. There are 2 funds on page 95. One is called Capital Appreciation / Index Plus. The other is called Capital Appreciation / Highmark Plus. But without seeing the prospectus for those funds and knowing if those expenses are in addition to the expenses already cited, how would you know whether you're within the 80 basis point target or not? So just to repeat a point that's been made before, I was in a conference call with the members of the board, with investment manager from Highmark and with guy from PARS, and they said, read the prospectus. And I haven't seen the prospectus, I can't find the prospectus, and I have looked through the last several board packets. I encourage you to do that. I'll skip point number 3 because I know no such analysis has been done. But I just want to put this on record and see if there's anybody here who will attest that yes, the fees do make sense, they do add up to the 80 basis points, and I have seen and read the prospectus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, can I ask a question? A technical question, maybe for Dave. Dave, so there are the contracts. The board has already voted to go with this plan. Now, the terms for PARS is how many years is the term do we stay with PARS? What is that in the contract?
Check.
This is part 1 of my question. So what are the terms of PARS?
3 years.
It says 3 years. Just want to confirm that.
As you mentioned, there are a number of agreements, one of which is the administrative agreement, which is goes with the plan and provides for our administrator to carry out certain functions and PARS to do so. The retirement plan itself, the defined benefit plan, which I think is the question or the agreement that you're really focusing on, remains in effect as long as the plan remains in effect. So you can terminate the plan, and the consequences of that is that you wind up the trust agreement and distribute the funds that are in the plan at the time of termination. Otherwise, it's basically an ongoing agreement for the life of the plan. Let's see.
So the first issue is the trust.
The trust agreement, yeah.
So you're saying that the trust can be terminated by the board, and we pay out what we owe up until that point. Correct. Is that correct?
Well, the trust agreement has to do with, of course, with the investment and the basically the handling of the money that's sent to the trust for the investment purposes.
So I want to get an idea of what we're signing and what the trust, what the agreements are. If there's a 1 year with 1 year, 3 years with PARS, 1 year with Highmark. The trust can be stopped and paid out. So what will Clemens be? What will he be signing? What agreements? What time and what responsibility agreements are there? Can you give me a list of those? And what can the board?
Yeah.
What is the board confined to? I just want an idea. I want to understand this completely.
In a sense, you could consider the agreements on a, I don't know whether revolving is the appropriate term, at least annually renewable basis, so long as the trust agreement remains in the trust, the defined benefit plan remains alive. As you've been advised by you can change some of the aspects of the plan, and you can terminate it. But once it's placed in motion, it stays in effect unless and until you terminate it or change the trustee, which I think can be done, which would be through an amendment to the agreement with PARS. What I can answer is what PARS considers non-negotiable in some respects. They set the plan in, it's a package of plan that applies to all of their participants. And so, aside from termination, which you can do, modification to it depends a lot on how flexible PARS itself would be, and that's an answer I don't have. They basically offer a package, in a sense much like PERS, only PERS is statutory and this is contractual.
So Dave, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm not trying to push you or anybody.
No, they're
just
good
want to
questions.
understand. So the trust, the plan, can be terminated by the board.
Yes.
The contract with PARS, if we go along with PARS, we're committed for 3 years with PARS, and then Highmark. So could you spell out what the obligations are?
I guess with PARS.
I just want to understand. I want to be clear so that I understand. I'm not sure I understand yet. Could you help me? Anyone else could help?
I'm not sure if I can find it. It is 3 years with PARS.
That was sort of my understanding too.
Where is it in the contract?
Which of one of the 10 contracts is the question?
I want to know that too. I just want to know what exactly we're doing before we vote.
I think, was it the agreement for administrative services, I believe?
The term of the agreement is 3 years. That's the administrative agreement.
Yes.
That's between us and PARS, Montara, the MWSD, and PARS. And that's provided in section 17 on page 3 of the administration agreement. It's provided to begin July 16th, 2015, ending on June 30, 2018. And then it has what you consider what we would call a rolling term, annually renewable, unless notice is given 90 days in advance following that period of time.
So could you repeat that again, please? I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
That's in the agreement for administrative services.
Yeah, and what is the term for that again?
The termination,
What is the term?
3 years.
3 years.
The initial term. Now, if you don't give notice before the end of the 3rd year to terminate, then it has a rolling term of 1 year successive renewals
Okay.
automatically, unless you exercise the option to terminate.
So 3, okay, so that's PARS. Okay, and then this high mark, right? What's the term for high mark?
Well, it's an
I don't think
investment.
there's no
It's an
term.
investment that,
There's no term. You
Right.
can change it at any time,
Okay.
but we look at it once per year with the GASB 68 requirements, and every other year on top of that with an actuarial evaluation. So that would be the time to make changes.
Okay.
But our commitment to use Highmark is 1 year.
I don't think so.
well, it's not a commitment, that's just the, that's just the period that we currently plan to reevaluate. And, because we could change funds.
No, but we can change from Highmark after a year.
I think you can change your strategy and
Do you think there's a contractual
Yeah.
commitment with PARS to stick with the first investment for a full year? That would be unusual.
PARS offers Highmark. Whether they would come up with an alternative, that would have to be negotiated with or determined.
I mean, say we wanted to move from the capital appreciation to the balanced.
Oh, I don't think that's an issue.
Right, okay. all right.
Okay, so, but are you using Highmark specifically as opposed to an investment manager, as opposed to another investment manager? I think it's in there
You do have the alternative, yeah.
to switch out after a year.
Yeah.
Can you find that?
Is that the Highmark Mutual Fund disclosure?
Well, that's not a mutual fund disclosure because
No,
this is
it's
a
not.
contract
Yes,
we're
that's right.
talking about. I believe it might be under paragraph 5.818 on 24.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's for specific, that would be for the individual employees to direct their own. Sounds right up until the last part of that sentence.
I don't think an individual employee has any discretion at all on
No, we're not offering that option. The contract is about if we do offer that option.
When June, the prepared contracts, right, with you today?
I have the same pack, this is what you have.
This is what we're saying, so at the end, you have these signatures to make. At the end of this, a trust agreement, disclosures and...
There's a number of signature pages included here.
Right.
If you look at section, section 5, but starting in like 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, I don't see a limitation on the ability to make investment directions. It talks about how to decide whether or not someone is authorized to make those. how to direct the investments. I don't see limitations on that.
Because this, let me see, we have, first we have the agreement with PARS, then we have our agreement with the employees. Then we have a fee schedule from PARS. But as I have been saying, and I'll look for it at the end, I don't see a signature page on this.
On which one?
Oh, I do see a signature page. Use of mutual funds sub-advised by HCM. That's on the mutual fund disclosure statement, which is not a prospectus. And we have not yet received any prospectuses, prospecti. My Latin was never studied. And we did get an email that said, as mentioned in last night's meeting, the printed prospectus are voluminous and difficult to scan. PARS has sent the email below with capital appreciation portfolio relevant fund information, which is not a prospectus.
No, we received the
Received
prospectus.
as prospectuses.
Yeah.
I didn't see that that was a prospectus.
Oh, it took
I
me-
saw below our links too. We have no prospectuses in our records.
That's
On
not,
the record,
that's not correct.
really, we haven't seen them in any meeting. They're not in any of the public disclosure documents for any of these meetings. They may be on an email with some links, but they are not available to the public, nor are they in any records of any of our meetings.
Dave, is there
I-
a requirement for the prospectuses to be in the public record?
Prospectus?
Yes.
Once it's submitted to the district, yes.
I've got copies that says Highmark Capital Appreciation, iShare Cores, S&P 500.
And where is that?
That was sent as an email that was a link, and that when you clicked
13
on,
days ago?
when you clicked onto the link, it gave all those prospectuses.
Again, they are not in the public record.
I think that begs the question. I think we can get in the public record. Today, the vote is to essentially reaffirm the plan as recommended by staff, and I think today we got the information to make that decision, and I would recommend that, in fact, to pursue this discussion line with pleasure of the chair. I'd like to move that we essentially reaffirm the recommendation of staff, and then we can further discuss the motion.
But I have some more points to make.
But you can, but I'd like to
Oh,
get
what
the
did
motion
you-
on the, get the motion on
Okay,
the
I
floor.
have a motion from Dwight. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Let's discuss further.
What is the motion?
The motion basically is to reaffirm the staff recommendation, that includes a 6.5% discount rate and the plan as recommended by staff.
May I speak, Scott?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I still stand with the 5.5%. I will note that in the actuarial valuation, their level of confidence is 50 to 55%, which is essentially saying, flip a coin. We might be right, we might be wrong.
Are you,
Good luck.
are you referring to footnote 2?
I am yes. Let's see, that
This is, no, that's not what they're saying. That's not their confidence.
that's what it says.
Based on, no, it
No,
said,
please don't argue with me, Scott. I'm entitled to my opinion.
I'm sorry, that was footnote 1 on page 8, or number 8.
And the
that right?
level of confidence is 50% or 55%.
I see. I see what you're saying. I'll follow up, but please proceed.
Now, under the asset allocation, it says we have 5% cash. In the staff report, it says we have 8515. So either the asset allocation in the actuarial report upon which we are theoretically relying is incorrect, or the staff report is incorrect. We have no way of knowing. Now, when we have 5% cash, we automatically are losing money, because in every account there is essentially a fee for them to hold the money. It's a point and a half. And when we put money into the accounts, they take money. They take fees. So and then we're losing, with cash, there's no appreciation, and there's loss to inflation, which is essentially zero right now, so we can not pay attention to that one. But, for 5% of our money, we're losing money. We actually have to be raising, having a greater interest rate to be able to do that. But again, the staff report says 15 and 85, and the actuarial says 75, 20, and 5. So what is it?
Staff report says up to 15 to 85.
Oh,
generally 75, 25.
Right. So staff report didn't mention that.
I see 75.
But again, the staff report isn't any kind of binding thing. It's just sort of to give us an idea of what's going on. In theory, what's binding is in the documentation. So I'm not happy to be losing money on 5% of the account. That's quite a bit. For the 5.5%, if you go to page 9, which is the top half of what appears to be page 10, where it does the actuarial obligations, it shows that if, let me see, where does it say present value, actuarial value? In any event, yeah, present value is in the second column down. It shows that there's a 37% increase or $318,000 in a present value if we go to the 5.5%. Think of that as insurance. Think of it as prepaying. Think of it as insurance to make sure this stays intact, as cheaper than an annuity, which would be very expensive. Annuities are expensive. I still stand with the 5.5% and the nothing in cash, because we don't have anybody who's going to be retiring for at least 5 years. So we can be putting a hedge against future problems by going with the 5.5, and we can always reduce it to 6.5. The reduce meaning the contribution rate at a later date when we have built up a substantial present value. And the fact is that our employees, I've been told by several people, our employees aren't paying for any of this. We're giving them the raise to cover this. So we're paying cheap insurance as a district to make sure we have some pads against what will be happening in the insecurities of the future with an actuarial report that may or may not be right. If you look, the difference in price per year for the district is $19,000 to $20,000. Again, that's cheap insurance. We would be smart, and when I was talking to folks at the CSDA conference, they said that there are actually some agencies who are front-loading these so they don't end up in the hole later when it's impossible to dig yourself out. We could cover that $20,000 now and not have to come to our ratepayers to pay double salaries, one for somebody who's retired and one for somebody who's replacing them. I think that I haven't seen the stream of emails that talked about the 6.5 versus 5.5%. And to be fair, I haven't asked for them. I would like to see them, but I've been busy on other things. So I still think 5.5%, if we're going to do this, is the way to do it. And I would still like to see no money in cash. And I would still like to see the prospectuses in the public record. Not on an email that was not given to any of the people who have been attending the meetings and asking for this.
Could I ask a clarifying question? You said $19,000. I'm looking to understand that number.
The difference is 41,862 versus 51,000 times 2. So it's $9,574 times 2.
Times 2, I'm sorry, times 2 because?
Because that would be what we're giving in wages for the paid employees to be able to make their 50% share.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, the 5% cash, this is basically sort of an academic argument because of the fact that they don't offer a plan that has no cash. That's number one. Number two is that although it's true that we do not have any employee scheduled to retire within the next couple of years, there's also the provision where if an employee is terminated, that you have to return their contribution plus 3%. So it seems like to me that cash acts as a way to fund that. So I don't see a real problem with that. The idea that we are paying the employees half, I do not think that is actually accurate. What we are doing is that in the first year we are increasing their wage so that they don't have to go out of pocket, so that the higher the discount rate, the less they have to go out of pocket. So, and then in subsequent years, we're not paying their 50%, they're paying it.
Are we going to reduce their wages?
I would hope not.
Then we'll continue to pay it.
That's, I think, a bad way to characterize it. I don't think that that's correct.
Well, I certainly won't put value judgments on your statements like you've just done to me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I heard you putting a characterization on his.
I didn't call it anything.
I heard you putting a characterization on that.
Anyway.
Let's avoid this.
Yeah.
Bill, continue, please.
So that, and as far as the prospectus, yeah, I agree with you that we have those, that they should be posted up on the website. They're all in PDF form, so it would not be that hard to do. I've actually downloaded all of them so that if you needed to, I'd be happy to supply those, make that very easy to do. And I think I have nothing else to say.
Okay. Anything further? Dwight?
No, I support the motion.
I don't have anything to add.
So should we take a vote?
Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Slater-Carter?
No.
Director Harvey?
Yes.
Director Boyd?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
Director Huber?
Yes.
Okay, does staff have clear understanding of the directions? All right, reports. Sewer Authority, Minnesota.
So we had a meeting last week and we talked about recycled water. We had two bids previously. One bid, which again, as I reported last time, responded to what the board had requested and to do the job for the Sam district to get recycling going. We did the meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, which was marked to have the board members ask questions. The Kennedy and Jenks hydraulic company sent representatives to answer questions, and they again suggested that even though they didn't respond to the bid as it was produced, they felt that the board is making a mistake in not completing the whole project. And as one bid, one unit, this is the same company that's contracted with CCWD. I think that the board agreed to get more information. I'm hoping that the board will be able to vote. The board voted to ask both bidders, both companies, SRT and Kennedy Jenks, to provide more information on the specifics of their water recycling technologies. And I'm hoping that the board will be able to make a vote on the bid that has been submitted properly at the next meeting. Scott, I'm sure you have more to add to that.
No, a little bit. Yeah, that's a good characterization. As we discussed at the last meeting, Jim and I agreed to take our concerns about some of the questions that CCWD had raised about the viability of the project. We took that to the SAM board, and we had a number of the stakeholders present. Bruce Russell of Ocean Colony Partners was there. Dave Dixon of CCWD was there. And I put it to them that I had concerned about us, SAM, putting up $200,000 for what we had put out the RFP for, given the concerns that had been put forward. I mean, that's a hefty chunk of money, and while Montara is only 20% of that, it's still real money. If putting that money forward has always been premised on when the recycled water facility gets built, all this money will be returned to us. This is front money that would be returned, so ratepayers would have no impact, and it would be returned through the paying down through the purchase of the water by CCWD. They would purchase water from us, and that would help service that debt, right? So we could be repaid. We haven't talked about a schedule for repayment, but the idea is it should net out. But when one of the two key partners expresses some doubt about it, it's like, oh no, wait a minute, if we're going to front the money, how do we get the money back if we don't actually build the facility? So I put the question to them. Bruce from OCP was very clear that he needs this, he wants this, he's committed to seeing it through. Dave Dixon from CCWD had similar comments, but it did stick with me, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit, that he said, roughly, we don't know how much this will cost. It could cost as much as 10 or maybe even $12 million. Well, there's no financing scenario I'm familiar with where $12 million is going to be fundable with roughly $350,000 of water purchases per year. I'm concerned about that. So I think we've got some questions to answer. Now, he did say one of the reasons that he's concerned is because given his understanding of the water quality that the SAM plant is producing, he's concerned that there's going to have to be an additional stage of treatment. And he had, in the previous meeting, talked about reverse osmosis, and now we're talking about another process, and the term is escaping me, but it's a less expensive process which yields probably better benefits than RO for this purpose.
Electrodialysis.
It's not dialysis, it's electrical
Filtration.
Is this because of the salt content?
Yes.
Yes, principally. And when you say salt content, it's really the ion load, and it's the sodium, it's the chloride. At any rate, yeah.
Okay.
And so let me hold the thought. So they have been taking samples, and so they have an idea of, we may well need an additional stage. We may even need, depending on a number of factors, which Kennedy Jenks is working on. They're going to be providing to SAM their detailed requirements for the water quality and the supply, the volumes that they'll need over the course of the year. And I've, at every meeting, had asked, we're talking about the demand curve, both over the course of the year and the course of the day, right? Because when you're dealing with a golf course, you're not watering it while the golfers are out there, unless you're changing it to golf course and water park or something. But so there are some very realistic needs about when the demand is going to be there, and that goes to how much storage you have to have, as well as it's actually quite complicated. It's a scheduling problem, and if you get a really big facility that can crank it all out all at once and send it all down real quick, you can avoid some of these problems, but that just costs big money. So what you try to do is you design the plant to be as small as you can, to be as slow and steady, the tortoise wins the race kind of thing. But then you have to have somewhere to store the water, and you have to be able to get it down to the golf course when they need it, in the quantity that they need it. They've got some storage down there too. All complicated, but if we're talking $12 million for a plant because they specify a water quality that SAM can't produce without adding RO or this other thing, and maybe even gypsum treatment, well, then we shouldn't put the 200,000 up. So we expect to hear from them soon about what they need for the water. Our engineer at SAM, remember we have a new engineer at SAM, he's quite good. He'll take a look at this, work with Clemens, they'll figure out what we're looking at. Jim mentioned that KJ once again made the pitch that they should pick up both ends of this work. That's fine, but understand this is a way to make the project bigger. It's a way to make the paycheck bigger. We're not interested in big. We're interested in doing this at a price that the customer can afford on an ongoing basis. We need him on a long-term contract to help fund this whole thing. So I'm still very concerned. CCWD has not expressed any interest in a topic that I brought up repeatedly, which is understanding where that ion load is coming from and whether or not that is a point source problem, maybe coming from, an example, salt water leaking in from the ocean somewhere in one of the low-lying areas, or a region heavy in wells with water softeners. If it's wells with water softeners, we and CCWD, we can do something about that. We can sell water connections and help eliminate the need for those water softeners, reduce the ion load, and potentially reduce the need for the extra treatment process stage, dropping the cost of what it needs to put in. Not only the capital investment to build the facility and the footprint on the SAM site to host the additional stage, but also the operational cost, because RO and this other process are both very expensive in electricity demand. So, if we're able to reduce the ion load in what we're treating in the first place, then we make the whole project much more cost effective, or even potentially feasible based on Dave Dixon's concerns. So I'd say we have some risk here, but I think we also have potentially a path to getting to a solution. But I don't hear CCWD and KJ talking about how to improve the water quality going into the treatment as a way to reduce the cost. Instead, I hear what you need is this extra stage of treatment to build a more expensive capital piece and infrastructure and operational cost.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that the one of the significant facts is the quality of the water as it goes into the treatment plant, and then the quality of the water coming out of the treatment plant. And that they're basically saying, in essence, we don't care how you do it, this is what our specification, what the water has to be before we'll either transport it, well, before CCWD will buy it.
Right.
Okay, so that's...
And we fully expected that. I mean,
yeah, and that seems
that's
to
part
be
of the deal.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, but so the question then becomes is that they have a concern about this ion load that has to be substantiated, right? Okay, and once it's substantiated that there is an excessive ion load that would require some special tertiary treatment, then you either do the tertiary treatment or else you reduce the ion load coming in. Okay? That if it's now, so here's where that let's assume that it's not a saltwater intrusion.
Right.
Okay? Because if it is, there may be a way to figure out what that is and mitigate against that.
Right.
Okay, but let's assume that it's not that, and so that the most likely cause of that is the use of water softeners. Yeah, is that a?
It's a guess.
That's a guess.
Yep.
Okay, but are there other factors that could potentially be causing that?
Point of order, can we discuss this? Should we discuss this as an agenda item?
Well, let me just answer the question real quickly, and then we need to move on because we have some other things to do. But and I'm happy to talk with you offline to bring it on more of this. But our engineer Sam is doing some sampling to see if this is uniform across the district, or if there's one area that's more notable than another. And I mean, people have theories, and there are others available, but those are kind of the two prevailing ones.
So that, and then to me, that the real question then becomes is if there is a significant ion load as a result of water softeners, to what extent can you say basically we're not going to treat soften the water?
Well, we do have authority as an agency to require people to hook up. We also have, a long-standing policy that we would rather encourage people to switch over.
Yes.
As I did in our last meeting. If you're looking at spending some significant money on servicing your well, maybe now's the time to start thinking about putting that money into a hookup where you can stop being a well operator and start being a customer of our water system. I would think that if we determine that it's water softeners that are behind this, then we and CCWD will both have big incentive to go sit down and find a way to make it attractive for people to switch over. And then keep in mind, it's going to take 2-3 years before anything's ready to go. We would have all that time to try to drop that load by getting customers transitioned. So it's not something we have to solve instantly. But we would have to have a pretty clear path to it before we constructed the actual treatment plant, because we don't want to have to tack something on at the end because we didn't make the goal.
Right.
But it's a little early yet. We're going to get some results here soon, and we'll have a lot more to report after that. But this is all about making sure we don't go put $200,000 up against something that doesn't get built.
So the only other question I have is, what's the purpose of Monday night's meeting?
This coming Monday night?
Sounds like that meeting doesn't have any real purpose till the rest of the questions are being dealt with.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. Clemens,
Or the last meeting?
No, it's this coming meeting.
We have a recycled water committee meeting scheduled on Monday. And Dwight, to your point, the agenda that we're going to send out is actually the exact same one as we sent out last time, which is mainly a status update of where is CCWD, and that's the main point that we want to know.
Is this the one where they're bringing us those numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
So CCWD is going to bring us the preliminary.
So they're going to bring it to the advisory meeting, not back to the boards.
They bring it, they let us know on Monday
That answers the question. I was just curious, given just what I heard, what Monday.
So this is the progress we're hoping for, and then we'll have that information in hand for the Sen meeting the next month.
That's fine.
We're just having lots and lots of Monday
I was
meetings.
just curious what that Monday meeting was.
So that's the report. I'll have to talk to you.
Okay.
Okay. Midcoast Community Council,
Nothing to report.
CSDA report,
Nothing to report.
CCWD and CCWD committee report,
Nothing to report.
attorney's report.
Mr. President, a couple of items. We filed an application with Local Agency Formation Commission last Friday for the amendment to MWSD's sphere of influence and to provide for extraterritorial service to the big wave of development. So that's being processed. Tentatively, the hearing on that application will be in the November meeting of AFCO, which is November 18th. Another item that I'd like to report on, as you may be aware, the district has an employee mortgage loan assistance program for qualified employees to attract employees for employment with the district to assist in particular the high cost of living in this area. And I am pleased to report that Clemens Heldmeyer, your general manager, was a recipient of that loan. It was initially earlier in this decade and renewed in 2004. The loan has been retired. Mr. Clemens has arranged to retire the loan. It's been paid in full, and it represents the check payable to the district is in the amount of $88,680.96, and that extinguishes the note and the deed of trust. And I'm going to hand this check to the general manager as general manager and not as borrower.
Thanks, Dave.
Well, congratulations. I don't know about the other members of the board, but I'm pleased that this was able to help facilitate this ongoing relationship. And it's at the time we tried it, we knew it was a bit of an experiment, but very happy to see the way it's been working out.
These are incentives to attract qualified employees, and more, because of the cost of living in this area and in the state for that matter, a number of agencies do have them. Your program was instituted maybe 10 years ago, something like that.
Time flies.
And I'm assuming all other employees are aware of this program.
Yes, all other employees are aware of the program. I wanted to thank the board very much for this opportunity. As Dave stated, this is something that is topic all throughout Sanitary County, all throughout the peninsula. The housing cost. Half a Bay Review just released an article about rent increases on the coast side are a huge problem. So again, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I think this is something that we will have to address going forward more and more with employees and management throughout the public system.
Yeah, I would say for all practical purposes, I don't think people, the average employee probably couldn't afford a home with no matter what program we're offering right now. So I wonder if it's worth looking at all the property we're sitting on and re-looking at whether it's indeed as contaminated as we think and whether that might be a community opportunity. Like we are sitting on a chunk of property here that's, for all practical purposes, not being used. So maybe one exploration is to...
We actually use quite a lot of the property.
But you also don't use quite a lot of it. I mean, what I'm trying to say is if we're really honest about exploring the housing for people of modest means, we should be looking at all options.
Okay.
We've had that discussion.
I'm sure we'll revisit that many times. All right, director's reports. General manager's report.
Nothing.
All right, we have closed session for public employee evaluation. So we are going to recess until the camera is gone. So public, we thank you very much. And, we are now recessed until we go back into closed session.
Can I steal another one of those?
Oh, sure, here, take the whole thing. I bought 2, but I slowed down after the first 3, so.
The session's supposed to